Ever pondered how inflation affects your everyday life? Let's break it down. Inflation, in its simplest form, is the rate at which the general level of prices for goods and services is rising. Picture yourself at your favorite grocery store. Today, you buy a loaf of bread for $2. But if inflation rates rise, next month that same loaf could cost you $2.20. That's inflation in action. Inflation doesn't just impact your trip to the grocery store, though. It influences your purchasing power or your ability to buy goods and services. If prices rise faster than your income, you'll find yourself able to buy less with the same amount of money. And it's not just about you or me, it's about the entire economy. When inflation rates are high, the cost of living increases, and the economy can struggle to keep up. Inflation, then, is not just a statistic, but a reality that impacts your lifestyle. To grasp inflation's effects, one must first understand its mechanisms. Let's begin with the basics. Inflation is the rate at which the general level of prices for goods and services is rising, and subsequently, purchasing power is falling. It's a delicate balance, and there are two primary theories that explain how this occurs. First, we have the demand pull theory. Imagine a bustling market where goods are in high demand. As consumers scramble to buy, sellers can increase their prices. When demand outstrips supply, prices rise, leading to inflation. This is demand pull inflation in action. Next, let's consider the cost push theory. Here, inflation isn't driven by demand, but by rising costs of production. If the cost of raw materials or wages increases, producers may pass these costs on to consumers. As a result, prices rise, creating cost-push inflation. In real-world scenarios, these theories often interplay. For instance, an oil-producing country may experience cost-push inflation if oil prices rise. Simultaneously, if the economy is booming and people are spending more, demand-pull inflation could also be at play. Now, why does inflation vary from country to country? Well, it's heavily influenced by a country's economic conditions, policies, and even cultural factors. For instance, a country with a robust economy might see higher demand-pull inflation due to increased consumer spending. Conversely, a country facing economic difficulties might experience cost-push inflation as producers struggle to cover rising costs. Furthermore, countries with volatile political or economic situations often face higher inflation rates. This is because uncertainty can lead to decreased confidence in the currency, causing its value to fall and prices to rise. Inflation, therefore, is not a uniform phenomenon. It's a dynamic process shaped by a multitude of factors, each playing out differently in different contexts. Understanding these mechanisms helps us to see why inflation is not just a number, but a powerful economic force. But how does the government fit into the inflation picture? Well, it's quite intriguing. Central banks and government policies play a crucial role in controlling inflation. Often they wield a variety of tools like a financial Swiss Army knife, ready to adjust and adapt to the economic landscape. Think of the government as the conductor of a grand symphony, where the economy is the orchestra. Each instrument, or in our case, economic factor, plays a vital role, and the conductor ensures they all work in harmony. One of the most prominent tools in the government's toolkit is interest rates. By adjusting these, the central bank can influence borrowing costs. When interest rates are high, borrowing becomes more expensive, slowing down spending and investment, which can help cool an overheated economy and curb inflation. Conversely, when interest rates are low, borrowing is cheaper, encouraging spending and investment, which can stimulate economic growth. So what happens when the government steps in to control inflation? Well, there are several potential outcomes, each with its own set of implications. On the positive side, effective government intervention can stabilize prices, ensuring a more predictable and manageable cost of living for individuals. This can lead to increased consumer confidence and spending, which in turn can stimulate economic growth. However, government intervention doesn't always hit the mark. In some cases, policies aimed at controlling inflation can inadvertently lead to other economic challenges. For instance, if a government tightens monetary policy too swiftly, it could slow growth and increase unemployment. This can create a ripple effect, affecting everything from individual livelihoods to the overall health of the national economy. In essence, the government's role in managing inflation is a balancing act, one that requires careful planning and execution. As you can see, the government's fight against inflation can have far-reaching consequences. Inflation is a complex issue, but one that affects us all. We've traversed through its impacts, the mechanism that fuels it, the pivotal role of government in controlling it, and the profound effects of such interventions. At its core, inflation is more than just rising prices. It's a delicate dance of economic elements that intertwines with our daily lives. The government, a key dancer, wields tools like monetary policy, fiscal policy, and legal measures to manage the rhythm of inflation. Yet it's not a one-size-fits-all solution. Each country's economic context shapes the approach, the strategies, the outcomes. It's a continuous process, a balancing act of promoting growth and maintaining stability. And that's why understanding inflation is important. It equips us to discern the economic currents that shape our lives. It encourages informed dialogue, fosters critical thinking, and promotes economic literacy. By understanding inflation, we can better navigate its effects and make informed decisions about our economic futures.